Just take a look at you, Tenny, still selling a car after all these years. How could you, Debbie? Everyone in Umuo believed that Tenny's life had come to a halt the day she began frying a car by the roadside. Her friends moved to the city, discovered a comfortable lifestyle, and showcased their luxuries online, while she remained behind, enveloped in smoke, hot oil, and a silent struggle. Yet, sometimes the individuals whom life delays are the same ones that life is preparing to astonish everyone with. Greetings, beautiful people. Welcome back to African Tales by Goldie. My name is Cynthia, and on this channel, we present you with emotional, touching, and spine-tingling stories that will captivate you from start to finish. If you appreciate stories like this, please remember to subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let us commence. Life after NYC in Nigeria can quickly humble someone. One moment, you and your friends are exclaiming, "We move." The next stop is Lagos, big babe season. Then suddenly, you find yourself bargaining for Gary with a calculator. During that year, 3 girls were the central figures of the village: Tenny, Amara, and Debbie. If you saw those girls together, you would think they had already achieved success in life. Always laughing, always dreaming, and always discussing their future husbands as if wedding invitations were already printed. Particularly Debbie K. That girl adored enjoyment. Whenever a wealthy man passed by, Debbie's neck would turn like a standing fan. "I cannot come and suffer," she would often say. Amara was somewhat similar, but her approach was more structured. She desired a stable husband, a stable home, and a stable life. Very straightforward. Now Tenny H. was somehow different. Not lazy, not dull, just quiet. Sometimes too quiet. While her friends were excitedly discussing Lagos and marriage, Tenny was always calculating something in her mind, peeling groundnuts quietly like a village counselor. One evening Debbie snapped, "Look at this girl." Tenny, don't tell me you want to marry for love." Amara nearly fell off the bench laughing. Love in this Tinubu economy. Even Tenny chuckled softly, yet she merely shook her head, taking one step at a time. This was Tenny's dilemma. She was never in a rush. Frankly, this often irritated her friends, as the rest of them were under immense pressure. Their peers were already getting engaged, moving to Lagos, sharing pre-wedding photos, exclaiming, "God, when?" Meanwhile, all 3 girls remained in the village, submitting CVs as if they were offerings. However, among them, Tenny's situation was the most dire. After completing her NYC, she searched for employment everywhere, but to no avail. Interview after interview yielded the same response: "Sorry, we'll get back to you." Yet nobody followed up. Then life decided to add further complications. Her father passed away unexpectedly, just like that. Everything fell apart. The small shop her mother managed began to deteriorate. Debts emerged from every direction. House rent, hospital bills incurred before her father's death, and her younger brother's school fees. Providing food became a matter of prayer. Adulthood struck Tenny like a heavy brick. The girl transformed overnight. While Amara and Debbie continued to pursue their dreams in Lagos and seek wealthy partners, Tenny was focused on figuring out how to keep food on the table. One afternoon, her mother quietly remarked, "Tenny, we may need to withdraw your brother from school first." That statement shattered her heart, as Tenny adored that boy dearly. That night, Tenny wept silently beneath her wrapper until morning. The following day, she took an old frying pan outside. Her mother looked at her in surprise. "Tenny, I want to start frying akara." Her mother nearly cried after university. Tenny forced a smile and replied, "Mama, people must eat before they can dream." And that was how it all began. Every morning before dawn, Tenny sat by the roadside junction, frying akara amidst hot oil and smoke. Initially, people mocked her. Later, they began to ridicule her. For in the village, prolonged suffering often becomes a source of entertainment. Some would purchase akara while still insulting her. Such a brilliant girl. What a waste. A university graduate amidst smoke. Tenny would merely smile politely, yet internally, a certain thought would cause her pain, particularly when she recalled the life she had once envisioned for herself. In contrast, life was progressing rapidly for Amara and Debbie. Very rapidly. Debbie had finally secured a wealthy boyfriend from Abuja. Oh, that girl vanished from Omuo without delay. Suddenly, her Instagram was filled with images of hotels, wine glasses, rooftop restaurants, captions about a luxurious lifestyle, and videos inside large cars with air conditioning that could freeze fish. Amara later obtained office employment through a connection in a wary manner. Gradually, everyone was departing the village except for Tenny. Years went by. 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. Still frying. Era remained beside the hot oil every morning. Still hearing Tenny add pepper. Tenny might change in appearance. Occasionally, she would see old classmates driving by and quickly avert her gaze, as shame can quietly suffocate someone. Then, one December afternoon, everything changed. The village was bustling as people had returned for Christmas. Music filled the air and cars were everywhere. The chaos of dirty December was in full swing. Tenny stood near her roadside stand, fanning smoke away from her face when a flashy white SUV sped through muddy water. Splash! Dirty water splattered all over her wrapper and tree. The car halted momentarily, and then the tinted window rolled down slowly. Debbie, wearing large sunglasses, long nails, and straight hair, was inside. Amara sat beside her, already laughing. Debbie called out, "Tenny." Tenny froze. For a brief moment, no one spoke. Then Debbie glanced at their car stand, looked at Tenny's oily hands, and erupted into shocked laughter. "No big joke. You still do this thing." Amara covered her mouth, laughing. Tenny, after all these years, noticed that people nearby had started to look. Tenny suddenly became conscious of the smoke on her body, the oil stains on her fingers, and the muddy water trickling down her legs. Debbie dramatically shook her head. "My dear, this village nearly finished you." The two girls laughed heartily. Then the vehicle departed, leaving behind muddy water, dust, and an eerie silence. Tenny remained motionless. After a moment, she quietly bent down and resumed frying Era as if nothing had occurred. "You are aware of the painful aspect." He wasn't even angry. They mocked her. She felt ashamed that they witnessed her in such a state. Following that day by the roadside, Tenny ceased to expect kindness from others. Not out of hatred for anyone, but simply because she was exhausted. Exhausted from the pity, the embarrassment, and the way people gazed at her as if life had bested her. Thus, she redirected her focus to work. Each morning involved Era beans, hot oil, and smoke. Each evening brought body aches that became her existence, and somehow the village grew accustomed to seeing her there, like a permanent fixture of roadside poverty. Meanwhile, Debbie, Madame Softlife, was living her best life online every week. "My new location. Abuja today, Lagos tomorrow, vacation next week." If Debbie posted a picture in her bathroom, it appeared more luxurious than some people's apartments. Her followers, they adored her. The ambassador of a soft life, doing it unlike anyone else. Debbie relished every moment, especially knowing that Tenny would likely see her posts. One afternoon she even shared, "God forbid struggle." Tenny noticed it while eating Gary from a plastic bowl. She simply locked her phone, showing no reaction, but feeling a small pang of pain. Now Amara seemed more stable. She had relocated to Wee and secured an office job through her uncle's connections. Nothing extravagant, but at least she wore heels to work and complained about traffic like a serious career woman. Whenever she returned to Muo, the village aunties would beam with pride. "Amara is doing well. Such a responsible girl." In comparison to Tenny, Amara appeared successful, and people tend to favor comparisons. One Saturday afternoon, while Tenny was frying Era, two secondary school girls paused nearby. One of them whispered loudly, "Look at her. This girl graduated at the top of her department." The other girl appeared taken aback. "Wow." Tenny feigned ignorance, yet her heart ached because sometimes shame does not scream. It merely resides quietly within a person. One aspect of suffering is that it can gradually cause individuals to fade from your life. Phone calls diminished, messages dwindled, and even friendships lessened. Debbie hardly inquired about Tenny anymore, unless she wished to flaunt a new accomplishment. Moreover, whenever she called now, her words were laced with indirect insults. "Tenny, you are still in that village. My dear, leave before poverty embraces you permanently." Then came the laughter, always laughter. One evening, Debbie unexpectedly called via video. Tenny answered promptly, only to find Debbie dining in an upscale restaurant with her boyfriend. The man was significantly older, sporting a large wristwatch and a deep voice, surrounded by luxury. Debbie proudly turned the camera. Tenny, say hello to Collins. The man waved nonchalantly without even making eye contact. Hi. Then Debbie beamed sweetly. My darling is taking me to Zanzibar next month. Tenny forced a smile. That's wonderful. Debbie tilted her head. And you? When was the last time someone took you out? The question struck a chord. Not because Tenny craved luxury, but because it suddenly dawned on her that she was aging while life remained stagnant. That night, after finishing her work on the roadside, Tenny returned home weary, only to find her mother coughing severely once again. Hospital bills resurfaced like an annual subscription. Later that night, she sat outside alone. No light, no sound, just darkness and mosquitoes buzzing around her ears. Then quietly she wept. Not loudly, just small tears falling silently, because even the strongest individuals can become weary. Meanwhile, far away in Abuja, Debbie's seemingly perfect life was beginning to show cracks. Yet online, everything still appeared flawless. You know that phenomenon with social media? Sometimes those proclaiming they are living their best life are merely one heartbreak away from yelling at a generator repairman. However, from an external perspective, everything appeared flawless, particularly Debbie's existence. By this time, Madame had undergone a complete transformation. She had new wigs, a new accent, and a new lifestyle. Whenever Debbie entered, even the village boys would stand at attention. Each time she returned home, people would gather around her as if she were coming back from the Grammy Awards. Ah, Anna, Debbie, you look radiant. Abuja suits you well. And indeed, Debbie relished the attention. Oh, that girl adored being in the spotlight, much like plantain adores oil. Meanwhile, Tenny was still frying era. The same junction, the same smoke, the same heat. The only distinction was that she spoke very little now. Life had rendered her more subdued. One afternoon, Debbie made her way back to the village for Christmas. As was customary, she arrived with a flourish. The scent of her perfume wafted in before her presence. Even the little children trailed behind her car. On Pepe, Debbie donned a white jumpsuit and oversized dark glasses, resembling an actress attending a movie premiere. Amara had also returned. Now married, she was a proper married woman, complete with attachment lashes, a wedding ring, and a calm demeanor. From an outsider's viewpoint, she appeared settled, but Tenny immediately sensed something amiss. Amara hardly laughed anymore. Not genuine laughter, just small, polite smiles, as if she were managing her fatigue. Yet, no one broached the subject of personal issues. Everyone was putting on a facade. That evening, the three girls found themselves sitting outside Mama and Kit's shop once more after many years. For a brief moment, it felt reminiscent of the past. Then Debbie initiated the conversation. My baby wants us to invest in property in Kigali next. Amara nodded slowly. Nice. Debbie tossed her hair with pride. Tenny, Youssef, when will you leave this village? Tenny offered a faint smile. When God permits me. Debbie clicked her tongue dramatically. No, darling, you are too comfortable in your suffering. That remark was poorly received. Even Amara shifted uncomfortably. Nevertheless, Debbie pressed on. You have spent nearly your entire youth frying era. Silence ensued. Tenny looked down quietly. Then she gently inquired, Are you happy? Debbie burst into laughter immediately. Observe this girl posing that kind inquiry. However, before anyone could utter another word, a loud female voice abruptly called out from across the street, Dora! All three girls turned their heads. An irate woman was striding towards them, her eyes ablaze with fury. Two children trailed behind her. Everyone in the vicinity ceased their conversations. The woman approached them, panting heavily, and then pointed directly at Debbie. So, this is where you have been concealing yourself. Debbie's expression shifted immediately. Pardon me. The woman let out a bitter laugh. Pardon who? You amassed a car. You acquired an apartment. You enjoyed vacations. Then she gestured towards the children. Meanwhile, my children are at home wondering why their father has forsaken them. By now a crowd had gathered. Villagers and free entertainment. A lethal mix. Whispers began to circulate instantly. Goodness, is she serious? Now a married man. Debbie's lips began to tremble. You are humiliating yourself. The woman laughed painfully. No, you are the one who ought to feel ashamed. She then retrieved her phone, opened it to display pictures. Family photos, her husband, images of Debbie vacation snapshots. Everything laid bare before the crowd. The pristine life Debbie had been showcasing online suddenly appeared tarnished and phony. A heavy silence enveloped the area. For the first time in many years, Debbie appeared diminutive, very diminutive. The woman angrily wiped her tears and then uttered the words that utterly shattered Debbie. You believed you were chosen. You are merely concealed. Or worse. The atmosphere became increasingly uncomfortable. Debbie grasped her bag unsteadily and hurried away before anyone could intervene. Onlookers gazed as she departed, some with sympathy, others with a sense of satisfaction. Amara remained motionless. Tenny said nothing. She simply observed as Debbie vanished into the shadows. Following that humiliating evening in the village, Debbie vanished for weeks. No posts, no videos, no updates on her luxurious life. People began to whisper immediately, as Nigerians have an uncanny ability to detect scandal from afar. Initially, Debbie confined herself indoors in Abuja, weeping as if she had lost someone dear. For in a sense she had lost her reputation. The wealthy older man ceased responding to her calls entirely. At first, she assumed he was merely calming his wife. However, a week passed, then two, and still there was silence. Even the apartment he had rented for her suddenly became an issue. One morning, the landlord knocked on her door. Madam, your rent is due next month. Debbie felt a tightness in her chest. For the first time in years, genuine fear coursed through her. But how could Debbie suddenly become ordinary? It was unthinkable. Not after all the effort she had put into her image. Not after branding herself as a soft life ambassador. Thus she began to fake it even more. She borrowed designer bags from an influencer friend, went into debt, took pictures in restaurants without ordering anything, and posted old vacation photos as if they were recent. Occasionally, she would enter a boutique, snap a few quick pictures, and then leave pretending she would return. Online, her life appeared flawless. Offline, however, debt was consuming her. One night, she sat in darkness because the power company had cut off electricity, and she could not afford diesel. Yet, 5 minutes later she posted, "Luxury is a mindset or more." Even her suffering seemed bewildered. Meanwhile, Amara's situation was a different kind of pain altogether. From the outside, her marriage appeared serene. Too serene. Coordinated pajamas, Sunday couple photos, and discussions about hobbies. But within that home there was a chilling atmosphere. Her husband was neither romantic nor warm, lacking gentleness. Everything in that marriage felt like a monotonous routine. Wake up, cook, go to work, return, sleep, and repeat. Whenever Amara attempted to voice her discontent, her husband would respond, "What exactly is your problem? Am I not taking care of you?" That statement would silence her, as he was technically correct. He paid the bills, provided food, and did not publicly cheat. So why was she unhappy? Even Amara could no longer provide an explanation. Gradually, the insults began to accumulate. You women are perpetually dissatisfied. You speak excessively. You are becoming worthless. One night, following a dispute, the man forcefully shoved her against the wall. It was not enough to cause significant injury, but it was sufficient to induce silence. That night, Amara sat in the bathroom, weeping softly to avoid being heard by the neighbors. Subsequently, she ingested 2 sleeping pills and slept on the floor until morning. From that moment on, sleeping pills became her means of escape. Meanwhile, back in Omeo, Tenny continued to survive one day at a time. There was no comfortable life, no luxury, no false pretenses, just hard work. One rainy evening after closing her akara stand, Tenny was walking home when she noticed something near an abandoned kiosk by the roadside. A small boy was crouched near the gutter, shivering. Initially, she walked past him but then paused. Something about the child unsettled her. She turned back slowly. "Hey!" The boy immediately appeared terrified. Like a stray dog anticipating a stone. Tenny crouched down cautiously. "What happened to you?" The boy remained silent. His lips were parched, his eyes swollen, and his body was dirty. Tenny felt a tightening in her chest. "Where is your family?" The boy began to cry heavily. It was the kind of crying that children do when they are trying to be brave. Slowly, she pieced together his story. The boy was approximately 10 years old. He had been kidnapped while returning from school in Abuja over a month prior. The kidnappers had moved him around to various locations before abandoning him due to police pressure. He did not know how to return home, did not know whom to trust, and for days people had walked past him without stopping. Tenny gazed at the child quietly, then looked at the dark road ahead. She barely had enough for herself. At times, even her own dinner consisted of akara and water. Yet she could not leave him there. "Come," she said gently. The boy hesitated, then slowly took her hand. That night, Tenny provided him with food before eating herself. The boy consumed the food as if he were fleeing from hunger. After finishing his meal, he cautiously looked up at her and inquired, "Auntie, may I sleep here?" In that instant, something shattered within Tenny, for no one should express surprise at being permitted to sleep in safety. From that night onward, the boy resided with her, quietly integrating into her struggling little household. Remarkably, for the first time in many years, the house began to feel lighter. The small boy subtly transformed Tenny's life. Not through wealth nor through miracles but simply through his presence. His name was Daniel. Initially, he spoke very little. He could hardly recall anything about himself. Any sudden noise would cause him to flinch. Occasionally, he would awaken at night, crying from nightmares. Tenny would sit beside him, gently rubbing his back like a concerned mother. "Relax. You are safe here." Gradually, the boy began to heal. Months went by. Then one evening, while assisting Tenny in packing a car with nylon bags, Daniel unexpectedly mentioned a street name in Abuja. Tenny froze. "You remember your home?" The boy nodded slowly. Bit by bit, more details began to resurface. The name of his school, the estate gate, his father's office building. It was then that Tenny realized the boy's family might still be searching for him. However, transportation to Abuja was costly. Very costly. Nevertheless, she began to save little by little. Every extra profit from Era was placed into a small container hidden in her room. No new clothes, no pleasures, nothing. Even when her slippers completely fell apart, she tied them with a pin instead of purchasing a new pair. For someone's child was waiting to return home. Months later, Tenny finally traveled to Abuja with Daniel. The journey itself nearly overwhelmed her. Stress, fear, confusion, yet somehow they located the estate. The moment Daniel pointed to a cream-colored duplex and whispered, "That is my house," Tenny's heart began to race. Before they could even fully reach the gate, a woman screamed from the balcony, "Danielle!" "Oh, Emo!" Chaos. Another man dashed outside without delay. Security personnel, neighbors, and everyone else were shouting simultaneously. The mother clutched Daniel tightly, as if fearing he might vanish once more. The father remained motionless for several seconds before embracing the boy as well. Tenny quietly withdrew, recognizing that such a reunion was too significant to interrupt. It was only later that Tenny learned who Daniel's father truly was. A billionaire businessman, one of the most prominent figures in Abuja. The family had spent months searching discreetly after the abduction. The police, private investigators, and media efforts yielded no results until a simple akara vendor from Umuo paused to show compassion. The man expressed his gratitude to Tenny repeatedly, yet she felt uneasy with the attention, believing she had merely assisted a child. That was all. Before she returned to Muro, the family implored her to remain in Abuja for a few days, offering to cover her hotel and meals. Initially, Tenny declined, but Daniel grasped her hand firmly, pleading, "Auntie, please don't go yet." The boy had formed a deep bond with her, prompting her to stay for a short while. Meanwhile, life had become increasingly chaotic for Debbie Anamara. Debbie's fabricated lifestyle finally crumbled publicly when creditors began to confront her online. One woman even wrote, "Return my bag," before sharing motivational quotes. The internet completely dismantled Debbie's reputation. As for Amara, her reliance on sleeping pills had escalated significantly. One night, she nearly overdosed unintentionally following another intense argument with her husband. That frightening experience profoundly affected her. For the first time, she acknowledged to herself, "I'm not happy." The frightening aspect of pain is this. Sometimes individuals who appear to be smiling online are merely surviving in their offline lives. Now, 1 week later, Daniel's father arranged a grand charity event in Abuja for missing and vulnerable children. It was a significant occasion, attended by politicians, businessmen, the press, and influencers, and because Debbie was desperately pursuing opportunities once more, she was present. Even Amara managed to connect through one office link. The two longtime friends had not properly seen each other for months. Both appeared weary, albeit in different ways. As they entered the ornately decorated hall, Debbie whispered, "If I could just make one meaningful connection today." Amara forced a slight smile. Then suddenly the MC proclaimed, "Before we commence with tonight's donations, there is someone very special that our host wishes to acknowledge." The audience clapped politely. Then Daniel's father stepped onto the stage, holding the microphone quietly. His tone shifted immediately as he began to speak. "Months ago, my son was abducted." An immediate silence enveloped the room. My family had lost all hope. Debbie and Amara now looked up attentively. However, one woman, a complete stranger, discovered my son abandoned and took care of him when no one else intervened. He then smiled with emotion and stated, "She lacked wealth. She lacked influence, but she possessed kindness." Debbie felt a tightening sensation in her chest at that moment. Then softly the billionaire said, "Please join me in welcoming Tammy." The entire hall erupted in applause. When Tenny walked onto the stage, Debbie was taken aback. Amara's mouth slowly dropped open. No way. Dressed in a simple gown with simple hair and a simple appearance. Yet somehow she exuded more tranquility than anyone else in that room. Debbie suddenly recalled the muddy water, the insults, the laughter. This village nearly broke you. Meanwhile, the same woman they had ridiculed was now standing under bright lights while distinguished individuals rose to applaud her. Life has a way of quietly humbling pride. The billionaire continued with emotion. There are wealthy individuals who would have overlooked that child. There are those in comfort who would have turned away, but she did not. He then presented Tenny with documents, a fully funded business and education grant in her name. The hall erupted once more. Daniel rushed onto the stage, embracing Tenny tightly, and that was the moment when Amara began to cry softly. Not due to financial issues, but because she finally understood that Tenny had never allowed her suffering to corrupt her character. Despite all the difficulties, the ridicule, and the humiliation, she remained compassionate. This realization profoundly humbled both women. Later that evening, after the event concluded, Debbie and Amara discovered Tenny sitting alone outside the hall. The Abuja breeze gently enveloped them. For a few uncomfortable moments, silence reigned. Then unexpectedly, Debbie broke down in tears. Deep, genuine tears. Not the kind seen on social media. "I apologize, Tenny. I used to look down on you." Amara also quietly wiped her face. "We all did." Tenny remained silent. Then through her tears, Debbie laughed painfully. Meanwhile, Nami borrowed a wig and handbag to maintain her online image. Amara slowly shook her head. "And I was taking sleeping pills every night, pretending my marriage was fine." Another silence fell. A heavy silence. Then, for the first time in years, Debbie looked at Tenny properly. Not at her attire, not at her struggles, but at her essence. She gently inquired, "How do you manage to remain so calm through everything?" Tenny offered a faint smile, the same quiet smile she had worn since their village days. Then she softly replied, "Some people bloom early." The two women listened intently. "Some bloom quietly." A tear trickled down Amara's cheek. Tenny continued, "But late is never lost." Or more. After that, no one spoke, for that statement encapsulated their entire lives. The years of comparison, the pressure, the false lifestyles, the concealed pain, everything. Tenny then looked at both women once more and gently stated, "Everyone was preoccupied with arriving first. No one paused to consider if they were arriving happily." That remark shattered them completely. Debbie covered her face, weeping. Amara looked down, shaking her head slowly, for they finally grasped the true lesson life had been attempting to impart. Success is not defined by who marries first. It is not about who departs from the village first, nor who showcases luxury first, nor who appears successful first, as many individuals conceal their pain behind beautiful images, while numerous people who embody peace may seem unsuccessful externally. Tenny did not become extraordinary due to her suffering. Rather, she became remarkable because her kindness remained intact despite her hardships. In truth, that was the genuine triumph. I sincerely appreciate you for following this story to its conclusion. If you found this narrative enjoyable, kindly like the video, subscribe, and activate the notification bell to ensure you do not miss out on emotionally engaging stories like this one. At which moment did Tenny's story resonate with your heart the most?